direct Misfire, talking many war games. Bensome and Spoon are taking aim. Comment, like, and subscribe today, keeping you notified and up to date.
Howdy all, welcome to another Army Breakdown. Tonight I have with me, as always, my trusty co-host Bensome.
Hello.
And we also have a very special guest. We have the one, the only, Mighty Fishbat.
Hi folks.
Hey Fishbat, how you going?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. How are you, gents?
Good, good.
Good, thank you.
For those of you that don't know the Mighty Fishbat, you've been missing out. Do you want to give us a bit of a brief rundown of what you do and who you are?
Sure. I have been playing Kings of War since its inception in like 2010, but there weren't many players back then. Kings of War's only really taken off since 2nd edition, and when 2nd edition dropped, we had the death of the old world, and I saw all these players needing a game and thought there's really no good quality content on YouTube for them to go to. So I started up my channel, the Mighty Fishbat, which I think are decent quality Kings of War battle reports.
They are very good.
Yes.
And for those that are interested, we will put Fishbat's details in the show notes. So if you want to check them out,
And you should.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Check out the links in the show notes. And anyway, tonight we are studying or running over the ogres.
We'll go through the background, which I have prepared. I've got a special guest that is totally not me. And alright, we'll go through that now.
From their simple nomadic camps in the far north of Magicka, where the frozen Mammoth steppe rolls into untold miles of sweeping barren grassland, a mere handful of ogres descend each year, each embarking on a quest of fortune, as is the age-old tradition for those who reach maturity. For sadly, a great many do not. Reared in that harsh and unforgiving landscape of wild beasts, extreme temperatures, and bandits of every imaginable variety, those ogres that do survive the life or death trials of a childhood fraught with peril emerge as finely honed warriors indeed. They make for an arresting sight, with prominent jaws, barrel-sized fists, and broad shoulders resembling a mountain range of muscle. They stand taller and wider than any man are renowned not only for their imposing size, but brute strength and also their unwavering backbone. They fear no other being, for once an ogre has set his sights, there is little hope of preventing him from obtaining his prize. There is an expression among dwarves that an ogre is always at its peak. Excuse me. Doubling as a pun on how they never leave their home herd entirely unprotected, a gravely serious warning lies behind the humor of such phrases, that no matter its age, an ogre is always dangerous if crossed. The broad strokes of ogre history are poorly recorded among their own kin. Instead, they hold the tradition of passing down oft-embellished tales of individual ogres who have gone before, of their personal travels, exploits, and adventures in southern lands. These are never written down and remain very personal, detailed, and treasured tales, usually only circulated within a particular family or extended tribe. In fact, greater historical accuracy is found in the dusty books of other races than among ogres themselves. They have no head for it, no sense of territorial birthright or political purpose in the swirling landscapes of constantly warring factions. They look on such things as endless, petty squabbles with no real bearing on the existence of their remote people. As such, ogres bear no ancient grudges, hold no inherent prejudice, and instead remain neutral, and when arriving for the first time at the gates of a city are very much open to all. Having usually heard exciting tales of such places from their elders, but being yet to personally experience the many and varied sensations on offer in such a place, their yearning appetites are enormous, and each is naturally endowed with a deep-seated determination to boldly follow the footsteps of their immediate forebears. Despite their fearsome appearance and reputation, ogres possess an often surprising sophistication of speech, an asset of any storytelling people, and one which has long allowed them to consort freely with the more civilized races they encounter on their travels. In this way, ogres find employment and adventure in the south by offering their intimidating presence and combative prowess to the highest bidder. Having acquired a taste for it, they can easily become intoxicated by the praise and flattery afforded them, becoming vainglorious in the extreme and hugely desirous of ever more wealth and status, incessantly seeking to expedite their arrival at the heart of the next battle where fierce reputations can be forged and upheld. This in turn allows them to command higher and higher sums for their deadly services. As such, most quickly learn to value their own notoriety above all else, for nothing serves a mercenary better than his name preceding him, at least for the short duration of his southern odyssey. Between contracts, the more successful ogres are able to bask in the heady excesses of gold and glory before one day returning north, laden above all with tales to tell the next generation gathered at the campfire. When ogres do unite into larger war parties with a common goal, it is a rare thing indeed, and an ogre army on the march is a sensory experience never to be forgotten, an ear-shattering clash of competing egos, with each determined to prove his superior ferocity or demonstrate his most spine-sundering battle cry. No unit will commit to battle as earnestly as an ogre will, and will fight to the very last, each straining to outdo the next until no enemy remains standing. Wielding two-handed blades, heavy shields, and immense blunderbusses, the likes of which most men could not even hope to lift, an individual ogre counts as many multiples of lesser troops when it comes to pure destructive force. Once into the fray, ogres delight in using their astonishingly powerful limbs to grab, crush, and literally cast aside any obstacles that stand between them and their goal, be it a hefty bounty or simply the prestige of having shattered more skulls than the other warrior in the field that day. There is no record of an army ever holding fast against them, and scholars debate long into the night as to whether this is because ogres have so rarely united in force, or because no opposition has ever survived to tell the tale.
Alright, and we're back. Thanks for listening and staying with it. Or you might have skipped over if you don't like it anyway.
You are just an enthralling storyteller, may I say.
Thank you very much. Oh, it wasn't me. It's totally
Someone
totally
else.
not me. Yeah. Okay, let's get to the meat and veg of this army. Ogre armies, they have a army-wide special rule, which is Hammer Blow. Basically, all the units in the list have brutal unless specified otherwise. And unlike other goblins, the red goblins are not brutal and they don't have yellow-bellied. Because I think they hang around ogres too much. I don't think they scare as easily as the scared goblins. And the ogres are neutral alignment, so they can be allied with everyone, shooters plus one. Okay, so let's get into the actual force list, the units. Starting off with warriors.
Yep. Do you want me to go?
Sure.
Alright, the Warriors are a large infantry unit. They come in regiment, hordes, and legions. Speed 6, melee 3, no ranged attack, defense 5, attacks 9, 18, 36. Nerve values 12/14, 15/17, and 22/24, and at 130, 200, and 350 points. For that, you get CS1, and you have the additional option of exchanging the shields for two-handed weapons for free, but your defense gets lowered to 4. They gain crushing strength 2.
Decent block.
I think they're great.
Hit well, defense is pretty good. Speed 6 is also pretty good. Nice chunky attacks with decent nerve, all average, all good. They're great.
I'd be very tempted to give him that extra crushing strength, even to go down to defense 4.
Yeah, I'll probably do that on legions.
Horde or legion, I'd try.
Just because then you've got the nerve to
To
carry
stick
through.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Magic items.
Extra hittiness is fun. You could, if you wanted to, on your Legion, go a bit more defensive, Phalanx or something, if you know you're up against, say, Brotherhood or something similar. And it also looks like a good choice for the Crystal Bomb as a Legion.
Any
Yeah.
thoughts, Tim?
They are just a really nice all-round unit with the 3 to hit and the 5 defense. In fact, the 5 defense, there's not a lot in the Ogre list which is that good defensively. So taking them in a horde is not a bad defensive option. Not that it's a defensive unit, but that it is relatively able to stand up to punishment.
Yeah. And it works they work on all 3 levels, so regiments are fine to take because you can take a more MSU style there. Defense 5 is pretty good for something so small. And gets you a few drops, and it's still a threat with crushing 1 on all the attacks at melee 3, so it's a great little troop, I think.
Thoughts on the Legion? Because 350 points is enormous, and it's a
It
massive
is.
unit.
Yeah, big, really big football.
Very unwieldy. Push it forward. It could also be a points denial thing too.
Would you consider, if you're going the Legion path, just caterpillar it so you're not clipping
You'd have
forests
to.
and yeah.
It shouldn't be that bad though, because even if you're hitting on 4s, I mean, if you want to run at the double it through terrain, that would be the thing. But still hitting on 4s, and you're still getting crushing. So it's not as key, I don't think.
As long as you can get them round on the board. If you're forced to just move normally, it's going to take a while to get there, I think.
But even then, 2 moves and then charge.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. That's my help.
You two play Ogres, you should know.
Well, I've just punched into the Kings of Math calculator. I know you say Math Hammer doesn't work, but averages are there for a reason. The difference between 36 hitting on 3s and 4s is 15 damage or 20 damage. So that's the wrong piercing amount. That's piercing 1 it should be. Okay, that's more realistic. With against, say, a defense 5 target, hitting on 4s is 9, whereas if you're hitting on 3s, you're looking at 12.
That's not a huge difference. 9's still a lot of damage.
Yeah.
No other thoughts on the Warriors?
Nah.
Move on to the
Take 'em.
next one. Who's up?
Sure, I'll take the Siegebreakers. We'll just jump over to their bigger brothers. So like the Warriors, they have a melee 3. They're a bit slower. Speed 5. Defense is 4, but they do have big shield, which falls into their special rules. 9 and 18 attacks in the Regiment and Horde. No Legion for these guys. And nerves the same at 12, 14, 15, 17 at 165 and 250 points. Like I was saying, big shield, so defense 6 on the front, crushing 3 and thunderous charge 1. Yeah, these guys are good.
They are nasty.
Very good. Defense 6, wounding on 2+, or damaging on 2+.
Yeah, providing you're not hindered at any point. Oh, sorry, they're crushing 3. Only thunderous
Crushing
1.
3
Sorry,
and thunderous
wrong
1.
way round.
Yeah.
Oh,
And with melee 3.
yes. Magic items on these guys?
Well, they're still hitting well, they're wounding well.
They get brutal as the natural ability.
Yep.
Elite would be a good one. Reroll.
Elite to make sure those
The hits go through.
hits work. Yep.
Even though you're already hitting on 3s.
Mm-hmm.
Extra speed?
I'd
Yeah,
consider
so-
the extra speed just so they can keep up.
Yeah, that's probably the one that stands out the most for me at the moment.
That extra 2 inches of charging is a big deal.
But they can take a charge, which is what I like to use them for. I don't care if you run at me because defense 6 is pretty good.
Oh, if they hang out, they're going to hit back pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yep.
You could go more defensive phalanx. I think that's a bit of a waste, but you can. Or the fog if you're up against a gun line.
But even then, big shield, does that affect shooting and close combat?
Yeah, defense 6 on the front.
On the
As
front.
long as it's the front.
Yep. Okay.
I don't mind phalanx because a massive cavalry charge would actually be concerning. 15-17 nerve isn't that big that you can ignore a cavalry regiment just ploughing in.
That's a good option.
Or nimble. Even if they're speed 5, going at the double 10 and then pivoting to aiming at the flanks is quite threatening as well.
Okay.
Or breath weapon.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
It's just a defensive pip because speed 5, if they stay out of your charge range, you can breathe on them.
Would you prefer to be putting that on something else?
Depends on if I take it.
Any other thoughts on the Siegebreakers?
Take lots of them. Take all of them.
Alright, I'd take that as a no. We'll move on to the next one. Do you want to take this one, Tim?
Sure. Now, which way are we reading this? Are we reading this from the...
You choose.
You choose. We'll
Ooh,
Go for it.
okay, let's go Berserkers.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
you're up.
Okay, Berserkers. They are Speed 6, Melee 4+, no range attack, Defense 4+, and they come in 15 attacks or 30, depending on regiment or horde, and nerves of dash 15 or dash 18. They are unwavering, and they are either 150 points or 230 points with Crushing Strength 1.
I really like these guys because you
Yeah.
simply cannot ignore them.
No, even at regiment, 15 attacks.
Yep. Their nerve is pretty damn good.
Because they're fearless, yep.
Yeah, because they're fearless, you don't have to worry about the wavering. Yeah, like any Berserker unit in this game, just the sheer volume scares the bejesus out of me. Sheer volume of attacks, I mean.
Yeah, those hordes are very nasty, especially if you get them in the flank. Hey.
60 attacks. Yeah,
Do I hear
last
a
game.
flashback in your voice?
probably.
Our latest game, he was unable to waver
Yeah.
route my boomers, rolling a double one, or close enough,
Yeah,
and
I
that left his flank exposed to some braves.
Tasty.
Quite.
Shouldn't have happened. Rolled a 3 for the nerve check. Needed anything over a 3?
So, I think that Berserkers are good, first of all, because you have so much Crushing Strength in this list with not many attacks that Berserkers can actually take on things like zombies that have the low defense and the high nerve.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing they're good for is combining with the Warlock, which I don't know if we want to talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll probably leave that later, but
Sure.
you can give us a brief view of what you're talking about, if you like.
Having Berserkers around makes the Warlock better.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right, magical items. For me, I'd probably keep them as cheap as they are. I'd be reluctant to put something on them. I don't think they really need it.
I go either elite or vicious or speed. Speed 7 braves are pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Makes them very fast for the ogres anyway, because they don't have cavalry.
Fair enough. Tim,
But I
Sorry.
don't think they need much.
Yeah.
Yes,
Tim, any thoughts on
speed or
magic?
nothing, keep them cheap.
Yep. All right, well, let's move on to the next one, I guess.
What's that?
So I've got hunters.
Mm-hmm.
These guys come in regiments and hordes. Speed 6, melee 3, no ranged attack, defense 4 up. Attacks 9 and 18. Nerve is 12/14 and 15/17, and they come in at 145 or 220 points. For that, you get Crushing Strength 1, Ensnare, and Pathfinder.
These guys, I like the idea of them, but I have trouble putting them in the list. It's the defense 4 that always makes me cautious. I mean, they do have Ensnare and Pathfinder super handy, but they don't have as many as attacks as the Braves. I mean, we're talking in the hordes 18 to 30, so it's a big drop. And even though they hit a little better, it's, yeah.
I see where you're coming from there. I mean, the only thing that I look at there is this is a unit I'd probably be putting in a forest or bit of terrain near an objective.
Just to make sure
Yeah,
that
they
the
you
Ensnare
hold it.
Pathfinder works.
Yeah, it's sort of a come at me unit. Let it defend. Well, that's how I see it anyway.
And there's so many good units in the Ogre army that's it's tough choice.
Any thoughts on them, Tim?
Yeah, look, if you compare it to the your bog standard warrior, the Ensnare for the lower defense comes out pretty much the same in terms of when you roll your dice. And that's 15 points more for the regiment, 20 for the horde. But so what you're really paying for, I think, is the Pathfinders.
Yep.
Yep, and as you said, makes them masters of the terrain game. Yeah, put them somewhere in a forest, and then things aren't getting through there.
But I don't know if I'd add anything onto them.
Nah.
I don't think they need it.
No.
Alrighty.
Alright, let's
move on.
move on to the +1 for every ally. The shooters.
Boring.
So, as some people should already know, I don't think anyone doesn't know about them. They are regiment or horde, speed 6 like just about everything else, melee 4, so they still hit fairly well for a ranged unit. Range 5, defense 4, 918 attacks, 1214, 15, 17 nerve. Points are 150 and 230. These guys are equipped with heavy crossbows, giving them a 36-inch range. Crushing 1 like the other ogres, and piercing 2 with reload. So very long-ranged piercing 2 shots. They're really good. The reload can be a bit meh if you don't position or deploy properly, but most people take these with the +1 to hit, so 18 attacks with your horde hitting on 4s, piercing 2 is dangerous to everything.
Yes. I like them. I kind of prefer the unit under them, but we'll get to that.
You don't have to think as much with these guys, and they're a bit boring to play and play against, just because you know what they do and they don't really move.
I guess the big thing with these guys compared to the boomers is that you get far more board control with these guys compared to the boomers. I know the boomers can move, but I think you can do a bit more with the shooters.
But then there's also the thing of as soon as you get into combat, they've got nothing to shoot at.
Yeah, true.
And I mean, they're pricey for what they do. It's a really expensive war machine. But if things are whittling down and towards the end of the game and you need to get onto objective, they can
move off and go capture it. Yeah,
and claim things.
18 attacks hitting on 4s with crushing strength 1 is nothing to sniff at.
Yeah. It's just, is there going to be anything there at the back of the board?
Because they'll need to catch up.
Yeah.
Well, they've got a 1-foot charge, so if they're 6 inches from the back, 18 inches from the side, there's stuff that would come that close. It also means that things like the dreaded Pharaoh on Honey Maze has to think twice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, you're not going to take it off unless you've really committing to it with a couple of flying Griblies or from a really long charge. They're no slouch.
No, I quite like them. Yep.
The other thing I'd like to say, the regiment, I've tried the regiment a lot of times, and it's not reliable. You can't reliably put damage on something to force a nerve check. So it's really horde or nothing. And the other thing to note is, well, I think you were touching on it before, it really does fulfill a role that isn't touched anywhere else in the list, because ogres don't have... Well, they've got the red goblins, which are quick, but they don't have the ability to project force all over the board, except for shooters. And so shooters can deal with those big mobile threats, which might be flyers or anything else. Yeah.
Agreed. So what happens when you give these shooters a shotgun instead of a crossbow?
Fun happens.
Boomers are the alternative ranged unit. Same stats as the shooters, except they have no ranged ability. That is because they have a breath attack. So breath attack 9 or 18 at piercing 1. No reload on these guys, so they can move and shoot without any detriment, and they don't have to worry about cover. If they can see it, they can shoot it because of the breath attack. These guys are, I think, just as good as the shooters, maybe if not better, because of the ability to move and chase the opponent, and the breath, so shooting at individuals or smaller characters that are trying to hide.
Yeah, the always hitting on 4+. The breath attack is quite good. Piercing 1. Have you used these guys before, Tim?
I've run the regiment a lot of times. I've tended to fail sometimes by overestimating what 9 breath attacks can do. Like, that's not that much. For 130 points, the Abyssals have their Afraid throwing 20 every turn.
Yeah.
But they've got a bunch of versatility. Yeah.
I quite like them. I think I prefer them over the shooters. Don't feel exactly the same role. Magic item-wise, what would you guys be putting on them?
Maybe more piercing.
That's what I go to automatically, to go to piercing 2. Heart-Seeking Chant, I think it's called.
Yeah. Elite or Vicious also works, just for the damages.
Does Elite affect breath attacks?
Yeah, re-rolling ones. Yep.
Oh well. Learn something every day.
This one's a bit odd, whether it works or not. Just to add a bit of extra threat range onto them is +1 movement, if you haven't used it already.
Yeah. You're only going to be moving 7, so it's only an extra inch. I mean, sure, you got the extra charge, but I think you'd want to be shooting more than
definitely
charging.
These guys can actually fight a reasonable round of close combat, though.
Just like the shooters, hitting on 4s, crushing 1, which is still pretty good.
Mobile version.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts on magic items for those guys?
I don't think so.
They're pretty good.
No.
All right. Who's taking the next one, and what are we doing?
How about you tell us about the red goblins, Jim?
Red goblins. So they are red, they are goblins, they come in troop or regiment. Wait, no, that's scouts. I know what I'm doing. Okay, they come in regiments or hordes. Speed 5, melee 6. Yes, melee 6, that bad. Range 5, defense 3, attacks 10 or 20, nerve 12, 14, or 19, 21, and 85 or 140 points, and they come with bows.
And they're also irregular.
Yes, they are.
No unlocks with these guys. Nice cheap drop. Objectives and a little bit of ranged threat. I'm always surprised at the amount of damage I can cause with just a regiment of these guys. If they do 1 or 2, hooray. If they do 4 or 5, even better.
Doing this review is like living my worst nightmare.
I'm sorry. But 85 points is pretty good. I don't know about taking them as a horde. It's a lot of space for it, not much.
Yeah, it's not a great deal of difference. 10 shots. Yeah.
Mm.
I think they're great at regiment size for the drop, as you've said. That's probably all I'd use them for. I couldn't see myself using a horde.
No, I mean, it's extra points and taking up board space, and I just think there's better things to take.
Not only the board space is a big thing, especially when you're playing ogres, because your footprint is already large for your normal units. You're taking a legion of, say, warriors, for example. They come in legions, don't they? Yeah.
Yes, yep.
That's a huge amount of board space, and then trying to fit a horde of freaking red goblins somewhere is like things are going to start getting difficult at some point.
Mm. And defense 3, anything that charges them is going to almost
roll over them.
Yeah.
They're the chaff that shoots at other chaff.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's exactly right. Magic items, keep them cheap. Don't bother.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Righty. I'll move on to the next unit, I guess.
Sure.
So we've moved into large cavalry by the looks. I've got chariots. These guys come in regiments and hordes. Speed 7, melee 3, no ranged attack. Defense 5, attacks 12 and 24. Nerve is 12/14 and 15/17 at 170 and 265 points. The special rules, these guys are on the 50 by 100 millimeter base, so very big footprint if you go horde size. They also have CS1 and Thunderous Charge 2.
Yeah, don't think these get much board time. I feel that the regiment is too expensive for what it does. The nerve's only 12/14. It only takes a few wounds for it to run, and that's 170 points. And that's as large, well, maybe I think it's a bit bigger than a standard large infantry horde footprint in its regiment size. So to be any sort of effective, you need the horde of chariots, which is huge. At 265 points, I mean, it's a lot of attacks, hitting well with CS and TC, so I think you need the Pathfinder on this one to make sure that you get your TC.
Yep.
But then they're speed 7, so most cav or anything with flying is be charging them, do a pip of wound, they lose their TC.
Yep.
I don't know what to do with them.
I generally don't rate chariots in many lists. I just think the footprint's far too big. I don't think the regiment's even worth it in this. I mean, you compare it to other chariots, even the Empire of Dust chariots, that actually have a shooting attack. At least they fill a second role.
Yeah.
These, I just can't see the point. That's just me.
Because you need to have the Pathfinder on them, and that's kicking them up to near 300 if just for, it's too big.
Yeah, and for that amount of points, you're nearly buying a horde of warriors, and they're as good, if not better.
200 points for a horde of warriors.
Yeah. So 190. Is Pathfinder 20 points?
Yeah.
I think it is. It's about that. Pretty sure.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you reckon, Tim?
I'd prefer warriors overtaking a regiment of chariots any day of the week.
I'm not big on chariots. The speed 7 means they're faster than elves on foot, but slower than all of the knights, which are going to prioritise them.
Yeah.
And as was noted, the nerve is too low. They are like having such a big space means everything will fit, and the low nerve means they're just going to pop.
Yeah, I think they need a points reduction. I mean, the stats look okay with the melee and defense and the attacks. Yeah, that's all fine, but just having that size just makes them almost unusable.
On a side note, I'd like to see chariot units get rewritten in the next edition.
How so?
Unit sizes. So, I think I saw an example on the Mantic forum where Regiment of 3 was actually a horde or something similar.
Yeah. So the regiment of 3 gives you the 24, 15, 17 nerve.
Yeah, and a single chariot. I don't know what they would call that, but
a chariot.
Yeah, a chariot. Just have 2. I don't think they need the horde at 6 chariots. It's just too big. Way too big. I'd like to see them rewrite them. They might actually be usable at that sort of size, but we won't know until that
Well,
happens.
if you were going to take these, what magic items, apart from Pathfinder, would you give them?
Speed.
Speed. Yeah, that's a good one.
Nimble, maybe, but that's very expensive. That's like 45 points or something, isn't it?
Close to it. But then I feel like if you don't have the speed, the nimble,
Yeah,
and then
kind
the
of doesn't.
Pathfinder as well.
I'm grasping at straws here. I don't think there's too many things you could actually
Uh,
put on them.
Give them a bow,
Yeah, if you got a spare 5
hand
points.
grenades or something.
Yeah.
Now hear me out. If you give the chariots the +1 to hit in melee,
Yeah.
there is almost nothing that they don't have a good chance of breaking on the charge.
That is a good point.
Apart from hordes with the with like 24 something nerve, you know.
Yeah.
They do a hideous. They've got the second highest alpha strike the ogres have got with the horde.
As long as you're not clipping terrain.
Yes, that's a very, very, very big.
So you have to make sure you've got your charge lines down.
If you're on a perfectly flat desert,
Like these guys with
Yeah.
the +1 to hit. Yeah.
No terrain.
Hmm.
Yes. Alright.
Teaching game, no terrain. Yeah, have some chariots. Alright, that's enough of
Let's
them.
let's
get
move on
to...
to the next unit. Who's taking the next unit?
What's that? Tim, you want to do these? Alright.
okay. I don't know what order you guys are going in, but what I'm looking at is the red goblin blaster.
Sure, go that one.
That'll
Okay.
do. We can go backwards.
All right. Well, I'll talk about this because it's my favourite unit in the game.
Ditto, ditto, ditto.
Okay, so this work of genius is a monster that's height 3 on a 50 by 100 mil base, speed 5, no melee, no range, 5 defense, an asterisk for its attack score, which we'll explain, 8-10 nerve, and a mere 65 points. What this thing does is it toddles up and it explodes marvellously.
How does it explode?
The Red Goblin Operator, whose model, by the way, is always ignored, can trigger the blaster explosion at any point during any of its shoot phases, even if it has moved at the double or is disordered that turn. All units, friend or foe, within d6 inches of the blaster model suffer 2d6 hits with piercing 4, and then the blaster model is immediately routed. Roll the number of hits once, but then roll to damage individually for each unit hit. Friendly units taking damage as a result do not have to take nerve tests, but enemy units will do as normal. If a blaster routes as a result of the nerve test, it explodes as above.
And it's also got a little note here. If a blaster charges an enemy unit, it will simply detonate in the shoot phase as above.
Yes.
So if you don't want to have to wait around, just charge, boom, done. I love this thing.
They're a
It is
pain
so
in the
good.
ass.
They're excellent.
They're so good at taking out units that fly behind you or threaten just to stick it right up you when you feel like you're going to get behind them. It makes you think twice.
Especially if you've got limited shooting,
Yeah.
then you kind of have to try and just throw something really poor at it, do one damage and have a good chance of making it explode.
Yeah.
But they're 65 points. Who cares?
Yeah, the ogre player doesn't care, just the person that
that's
has to get
right.
rid of them.
So many times I've been able to get one of these guys into just the right spot to take out 2 or 3 units. And that's one thing that you have to worry about as an ogre player, is making sure that if your opponent does have ranged units, that they're not near your fellas, 'cause else it'll blow up and non luck it'll get everything in range of 6 and then everything's running and then you're flipping the table.
And now I'm having flashbacks.
Yes, I'm sorry. I always take a couple of these, 2 or 3. You can't give them magic items because they're monsters, but 65 points.
The scare factor alone is
Yep.
well worth the points.
I think 1 by itself isn't much of a threat, because if you can get 1 flying chaff unit into them, that's okay, then that's that threat gone. But if they have to worry about 2 of them, the stress levels go up.
I'd say even 1 is still good. I've held up an entire
it's-
flank by 65 points was holding up 400 points of enemies who didn't want to go closer. Because they didn't have chaff or... Well, they had shooting, but this thing still has defense 5. I've seen it take 1 or 2 damage and still be fine.
And there'll still be cover, so they could be hitting it on 6s with defense 5. And if you've got any sort of inspiring nearby, I mean, I try to avoid that. Try to keep it at 6 just to make sure in case it blows it doesn't hit your fella. It just makes it even harder to get rid of.
But 65 points for this thing is the best psychological effect on your opponent.
Yep.
Like, it is just fun to use.
Would you take it if it was, say, 100 points?
Yes.
Yeah, I would too.
Yep.
I'd still take 2 of them.
I still think, yeah, as I said before, the scare factor of what it can potentially do, like the last game we played, Bensome, that one that only blew up an inch, but what it potentially could have done, it scares the bejesus out of me.
Yep. If I rolled a 2 or 3, that's not just your Archfiend, but also your large cav, and
So they go bye-byes.
Yeah. Great unit.
Yeah, love it.
All right, we'll go from the Red Goblin Blaster to the Red Goblin Scouts. Also irregular like the standard Red Goblins. They come in troop and regiment flavors, speed 10, which is pretty good. Melee 4, which is also really good for goblins. Defense 4, 7 and 14 attacks. Nerve is 9, 11, 12, 14 at 100 and 155 points. They only have Thunderous Charge 1, but they're nimble. Speed 10 nimble unit is pretty good. Very low nerve.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at now, but it is the same as gargoyles and the likes.
Yeah.
I'd be pretty much using him for the same role. Chaff it up. If you're lucky, you might get one lapping around the back, but very unlikely.
Unlike gargoyles, which I think they're the same nerve, an extra attack, lower defense. I think the fly is
Oh, they're definitely more flexible, the gargoyles.
more flexible.
Yeah.
I mean, the Thunderous Charge one, I think, is just a bonus.
Yeah.
I
If you
don't
actually
think
make it
anyone's
that far.
expecting- That's right.
Yeah.
But for the Ogre army, I think that's a decent redirector and annoyer getting in the way.
Yep. I can't see him being a reasonable close combat. Even the regiment at 12, 14 is stupid low.
It is.
Yeah. Nah, troops for me. Troop or nothing.
Don't take any items.
Don't take any items. Keep them as cheap as possible if you're going to take them.
Unless a bow, 5-point bow or hammer.
I haven't seen it happen myself, but I've heard in defense of the regiment, which I'll say it looks really crap with the low nerve. But in defense of the regiment, if you have one right up the back, it can protect your backfield from flyers. Because if your flyer comes around to try and get some tasty rear charges, it's going to take 28 attacks in the flank, a 20-inch charge range, which ogres have lots of problems with flyers generally, and so it's one of the possible answers.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
And if there are no enemy flyers, you've still got a speed 10 unit, which is a lot of utility ogres don't have.
Yes, certainly need that speed. They don't really have it anywhere else. I mean, you got Chariots, but we're not taking Chariots.
You're not taking Chariots.
No. If they do some wounds, great. But yeah, I would probably just go the troops. Take a couple of troops if I wanted some redirectors.
Comes down
Or-
to your army
Or
construction.
War Machine Hunters as well, speed 10. Pretty good.
Yeah, if they get that far. I think we've gone over that, though.
Yeah. 55 points extra means that if they take a couple of wounds from a stray archer unit, they've still got a good chance of staying. And nimble is...
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so then on turn 2, they're right at the back and facing at the flanks. And usually it's something that can't shoot at them because they have to turn and whatnot. Yeah, I reckon
And
they're pretty good.
even if they do turn and can shoot, they've left themselves open on the
Yeah,
flank.
and if they're shooting at scouts, I'm happy.
That's not your ogres taking the wounds.
No.
Yeah. Alright.
I think that's done for all the infantry. I think we're getting into the big beasties.
Alright. We've already done one monster. We'll move on to the next one.
It's
Next.
not really a monster. It's a big bag of fun. We're going with the Mammoth. How about you tell us about this one, Spoon?
This one is speed 7, melee 4, no ranged attack, defense 5, 12 attacks, nerve of 15/17 at 210 points. The Mammoth's on a big base, 50 by 100 mil, crushing strength 2, thunderous charge 2. The options, you can add a ballista on top, which has a range of 36 inches and gives it the range value of 5 up. It's got 2 range attacks, blast D3, piercing 2 for 10 points.
It's a cute little option. Probably not taking it though, because this thing, I assume, will be moving most turns if it's not in combat, which means it's hitting on 6s and then cover.
I think this one we did something similar. There was one similar in the Empire of Dust list. As soon as you start moving, hitting on 6s, it just becomes rubbish.
Yeah, and I find this Mammoth fights for the same slot as the Giant. But what this has got going for it, I guess, over the giant is the guaranteed 12 attacks, whereas the giant's random. The potential to do more damage with its Thunderous 2. The giant has Crushing 3 only. But you can't give this thing Pathfinder, so you have to be careful with your terrain clips.
Bigger base size can be
Bigger
an
base
issue.
size, yeah. The speed's the same, yeah. And he's costs a bit more than a giant.
You used the Mammoth before, Tim?
No, it to me looks like a giant with a bigger base. That like the giant's a good defensive unit. Like it's a little compact anvil that can also be a can opener. And the Mammoth is more expensive, and I don't like the range attack on it much.
No.
I would also just like to note that the document I'm reading from, I think it's one of the earlier PDFs, like from the just before second was released, which is probably why I'm reading it in a different order to you guys. And the alignment for the stats is it's misaligned. So my Mammoth here has no attacks, defense 12, range 5, flank melee, and speed 74.
Way.
It's a super fast Mammoth.
Mammoths in just before release were amazing. They were going table to table.
Yeah. I think the nerves also are a bit of a kicker in the tenders, 15-17 as opposed to the giants 17-19.
Absolutely.
I don't know, maybe that's a bit of fun. It's a smaller horde of warriors or something, I don't know.
Novelty giant on a bigger base.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got that gorgeous Thunder Tusk
Yep.
model, take it, but I don't think it's the greatest thing the Ogres have got.
Nah. I guess while we're on it, we'll just go over the giant. So, like I said, fighting for the same slot as the Mammoth, also a monster, speed 7, melee 4, defense 5, so exactly the same as what we're talking about. Your attacks is, like I was saying, random. You get 6 standard, and then you get a d6 on top of it. 17-19 nerve at 190 points, so 20 points less than a Mammoth. No fancy gun options for this guy. He's just got Fury, which is great. Crushing Strength 3, which is also great. Strider, which is great. This guy's great.
He's a national hero.
Just all around great.
All round great. I think 190 points is very reasonable for what he does.
Yep.
Not a massive amount of attacks, but it's guaranteed Crushing 3. Fury's nice little bonus. Strider means he's hitting on 4s all the time.
The other thing
Unless
Strider
you're hitting in
does
snow.
is
Yep.
if you have the Pathfinder item, you still aren't ignoring obstacles. It's only difficult terrain.
That's right.
So the giant can get through difficult terrain and obstacles. So when your battlefield's lined up and you've got terrain in an awkward spot, the giant is usually great to go there. He fills a critical gap in the line, and he's really solid as well. He's way more solid than most Ogre units because of that higher nerve and the narrow base.
Now, Strider, it doesn't allow you to at the double over terrain. It just doesn't prevent... it doesn't make the giant hindered ever.
Yes, that's right.
So, that's great. I wish I could give this guy some items. I'd give him a charm or something because I think he deserves it. He needs a medal. I love him.
I'd give him a hug.
Yeah, a hug would be great. Alright, I think that's enough of the giant. I think now we're getting into the dudes who run the joint. Tim, how about you tell us about the Warlord?
The Warlord. Hero, large infantry, speed 6, melee 3, no range, defense 5, 7 attacks, 15-17 nerve, and 185 points.
175.
Oh, that's changed.
Yep.
Okay.
Special rules?
Special rules, he's got Crushing Strength 2, Inspiring Nimble. Very important to note, he does not have the individual rule. None of the Ogre heroes do. But he has Nimble.
Yeah, that kind of makes up for it, kind of.
Yeah.
And it looks like you can give him a couple of options as well. So you can exchange the shield for a two-handed weapon, so that drops his defense to 4, but Crushing 3, if you so choose. You can also put him on a mount, so a Chariot gives him Thunder 2 and Speed 7, but he loses the Nimble. And it changes his hero class, I'm not sure what that's called, from large infantry to large cav. And it makes his base size chunky at 50 and 100, the Chariot base. I don't think I'd ever do that. 1 extra speed for Thunderous 2.
Nah.
No, and losing the Nimble, which I think is key.
Yep.
I think he's okay. On paper he looks alright. A decent amount of attacks that can run around and spire dudes, and I think it might catch people out that he gets bonus attacks on flanks, being a character.
Yep.
I don't know what to put on him though.
Do you usually run the Warlord?
No. I've got other things to do the damage, so I've got characters to try and keep my other fellas about or zapping people. I don't know what else to put on him. I feel like, I mean, you can go extra defense. I don't think there's anyone else that's going to take it.
Do you need it?
Not really, but it helps. Means he's hanging around forever.
Yeah, if you're careful with your characters, they should hang around forever, but...
It's just more that with the flying characters, with defense 6, they're more inclined to get stuck into combat or kind of overextend the line, whereas I'd think the Warlord will be hanging around mostly with the rest of your army.
Yep.
So it makes him a bit safer. I don't think I'd drop his defense to 4 and give him crushing 3.
No.
I'd rather just give him the crushing item.
Yep. Crushing 2 is nothing to laugh
Yeah, to be
at
hitting
anyway.
most dudes on 2s or 3s.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not bad.
I can't say I'd be putting too much on him. I'd probably just leave him at base. Base point cost.
Maybe give him a ranged item.
Yeah, 5-point bow.
Something to do.
Diadem if you haven't used it, maybe, but even then, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you reckon, Tim?
I reckon that when you're deciding whether to take this guy, you have to be comparing him all the way to the captain,
Yep.
which I suppose we'll talk about next.
Yeah.
So why don't we move on to that one then, if there's nothing else left for the Warlord?
Alright, how about you go through it?
Right. So next we have the Captain, Speed 6, Melee 3, Range 5, Defense 5, 5 attacks, Nerve of 13/15 at 135 points. For that you get CS2 Inspiring and Nimble. You can exchange a shield for a two-handed weapon for the lower defense at 4+, but you gain CS3. You can exchange the shield for the heavy crossbow. You'd gain reload, piercing 2, and lower defense for 10 points. Or you can chuck him on a chariot for 15 points, giving him TC 2 and speed 7. He loses nimble, and he changes his class to large cavalry on a 50 by 100mm base.
I don't think the crossbow's ever been put into the list.
I wouldn't bother with the crossbow ever.
This means you're not moving, and then if you're not moving, you're not inspiring because your army's moving forward and he's not.
Unless he's hanging around. What are the shooters? Yeah, they're called shooters.
Yep. If you got a gun line, yeah. Why not?
It's a very odd ogre army, but anyway.
He's not going on a mount either because he's got lower nerve than the other fella. I'm not putting the other fella on a mount. Crushing 3. I don't think he's got enough attacks for me to warrant putting Crushing 3 on him.
No.
And lowering his defense. Yeah, I don't know.
I'd keep him at base, leave him as he is. He is a cheaper alternative to the Warlord. Lower nerve.
2 points of attack and 2 points of nerve separate them for 50 points.
Yeah.
It's a big drop. I mean, it's a lot of points though.
Depends how you're using this guy. Are you hiding him or he's...
If you're hiding him, you might as well use an army standard.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in that weird spot. He wants to fight, but he doesn't really have the chops for it.
Yeah.
You can put something on, but it's 135 points for something to do a little bit of damage and then might get countercharged and get run off.
I don't mind him. Maybe in smaller points games, he might be more viable than a Warlord.
Yep.
2,000 points, I'd be pushed towards the Warlord, I'd say, for my choppy character. If I was going to take one, I think there's another one to come yet, though, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, up against other characters, he'd do okay. He's also, because he's not individual, he can claim objectives, unlike other armies' heroes. Guess that's got something going for him, so run in, then run out. I don't know. A smaller footprint, I don't know.
I wouldn't... I'd go Warlord, and even if I took either of them, wouldn't be taking too much on them. I think they're okay as is. They're not gonna break a unit by themselves anyway. They're a supporting unit.
No, that's right.
And they're quite expensive for that support, I think.
Yeah, they're in a weird area. Alright, bugger that. Let's go down to the Army Standard. See a Captain. Army Standard, he is Speed 6, Melee 3, Defense 4, so less defense than the Captain. 3 attacks, less attacks than the Captain. And Nerve is 11-13, that's less nerves than the Captain. But he's also less points than the Captain at 70, so 65-point drop. For Crushing 1, Inspiring and Nimble. He has no fancy weapon options, he's just, you can pop him on a chariot, which we're not doing. The interesting thing here is his defense goes up to 5 instead of 4. That makes him a bit more defensive.
With 11, 13 nerve.
Yeah. And it makes his height to 3 because he's large cav and easy to see and shoot. You're taking him for the inspiring. You're also giving him hand grenades because that's the best thing ever. Or the healing charm. Healing charm behind, with an army standard behind some siege breakers.
That's a good one.
Good fun there. I feel like you need some sort of range, be it magic or shooting, just so he's got something to do when he's not doing anything, which is most of the time. He's not really running in for attacks, 3 attacks. I mean, if you're last turn and you've got no one following up, sure, run him in for an extra hit, but he's just there waving his flag.
Well, it's compared to other army standards who are practically useless in combat.
Yeah.
3 attacks, 3 to hit, crushing 1. If he gets a flank, which isn't hard, he's actually worth contributing. Like, he'll get another point or 2 of damage.
The melee is good there. 6 attacks at crushing 1. Yeah, it's not bad.
Especially in late game where units have already taken damage and you only need to cause that 1 or 2 wounds to cause a nerve check. I like the idea of him. Very flexible BSB or army standard, whatever you want to call it.
I would have liked if you did put him on a chariot that he became very inspiring because he's easy to see, but that's just me. It's just a thought that flew through my head right that moment. I decided to share. I'm sorry I did. Let's move on to the Warlock. Take it away, Tim.
Warlock, speed 6, melee 4, no range, defense 4, 2 attacks, 12, 14 nerve, and 100 points. He has crushing strength 1, inspiring to Berserkers only, lightning bolt 3, nimble. In addition, the Warlock gains an additional dice for spells for each unit of Berserkers within 6 inches, which we referenced before. And he has 2 options for spells, Fireball 12 for 30 points, and Wind Blast 5 also for 30 points.
Taking Braves, taking a Warlock. Take a couple of Braves, taking a Warlock. Take a couple of Warlocks, take a whole bunch of Braves. Lightning Bolt 5 or 6 instead of 3 is really, really good. And surprising 2 attacks instead of 1 on a standard mage. Melee 4 is okay with crushing 1. Brutal as well. Got to remember all these characters have brutal on top. Could catch a couple of people off.
Yep.
Throwing their chaff in trying to get rid of him. Lightning Bolt 3 is the only real long range apart from the shooters that this army has. And we know you're taking Berserkers, so that Lightning Bolt's only increasing. Would you take Fireball or Wind Blast?
Fireball tempts me. Fireball 12. Wind Blast, probably not, because I want to get closer. I know you can push stuff away so it stops charges.
Yeah.
I like the Fireball because, once again, it's flexible. It helps to take care of the flying things that get into awkward spaces, like your gargoyles or whatever may be heading towards shooters.
Anything that's lower defense because there's no piercing on the Fireball, so make sure you get some damage there. Are we putting magic items on the Warlock? I usually go the Inspiring Talisman because I don't just have Berserkers, I've got other fellas.
Yep.
And I'm usually not very character heavy, so I need as much as I can get. But I can see Elite might be okay if you're running a lot of Berserkers to up that Lightning Bolt or your Fireball.
Yep. No, that's not a bad one. At 130 points, adding another, well, for me, 130 points, because I'd add Fireball to him. I'd be spending my points elsewhere, I think. I don't think there'd be too much I'd want to put on him.
Yeah, he doesn't need much.
He's pretty versatile as he is. Inspiring Talisman's probably the best one, as you've mentioned.
Yeah.
I think.
We're not making him more defensive because he should be hiding from most things. 12-14 nerve's not going to carry him that far.
No.
Tim, any other thoughts?
No, he's good, and he can fill a role that the army sort of needs in terms of that. Reach out and touch them with some attacks.
Yep. Zap some individual characters or light units.
Or chaff that are blocking your nice big stompy units.
Alright, let's go to the weird fellas, I think. We've got a Boomer Sergeant, so this is a dude with a shotgun. He is speed 6, melee 4, defense 4, no range attack. No range value, sorry. 4 attacks, 11, 13 nerve, 90 points. He's got breath attack, crushing 1, nimble and piercing 1. So he's a mini boomer. I don't like him. I think 90 points for a breath 4 weapon is a bit piddly.
Yeah.
And he doesn't inspire.
So you got to pay for the inspiring if you want it.
Yeah, it's too much for too little.
And by the time, what's the inspiring talisman worth? 20 points?
25? 20, 25? Around that. I mean,
Yeah.
as a redirector, maybe.
Yeah, 20 points for the inspiring, but more to the point, take an army standard, give him the Diadem of Dragonkind. That's 100 points with Breath 10.
And
Yeah.
And inspires. Much
cheaper.
better.
Yeah, much better. Yep.
All day, every day.
Yeah, he's weird. Next, Siege Master. This guy is like the weird boomer sergeant. He's speed 5, melee 3, no range, defense 4. 4 attacks, nerve is 12-14, so he's a bit more than the boomer sergeant at 135 points. He's got a big shield like the Siege Breakers. Crushing 3, inspiring to the Siege Breakers only, so he's got inspiring this guy, which is something. Nimble and Thunderous Charge 1, so he's got the same sort of damage potential in terms of getting through defense, but 4 attacks.
It's kind of nothing, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you take it into Inspire and do a bit of extra damage, again, why don't you just take an Army Standard
Yeah.
and give him like the Crystal Pendant and he can run in and blow something up? I mean, a Defense 6 redirector might be okay, but it's 135 points. That's
Yeah.
expensive what it is. I'd rather
Ogres
take a
don't have
captain.
tons of points to throw around.
No.
Yeah. It's funny, after I now look at the characters that you got to choose from, Siege Master gets the arse for me. He's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Boomer Sergeant's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Army Standard
Warlord
to
or
take.
captain?
Warlock, Army Standard Bearer, and points would determine Warlord or Captain, I think,
Yeah.
if I was going for 3. And then again, there's the big fella at the end, but we'll get to him.
We've still got one more. We've got
Yeah.
a very small fella.
Oh, yes.
Tell us about him, Tim.
Well, this friendly, cuddly fellow is named Grokagamok, and he just wants to give everybody a nice big hug with his hammer. He's speed 6, melee 3, defense 5, 7 attacks, 15-17, 260 points. His rules are crushing strength 3, nimble, very inspiring, which is a nice big bubble.
Yep.
And he has what is called the Amputator.
And what does this one do?
The bearer of this massive axe has an increased crushing strength already included in the profile. In addition, the bearer's melee attacks also have the Blast D3 special rule.
Amazing.
Amazing!
Yeah, 7 attacks with Blast D3, hitting on 3s.
Owies.
Nimble, crushing 3. He can put out a lot of damage.
Can opener.
Yeah, at 260 points, I think that's reasonable for what he does. And he's a 9-inch inspiring bubble too.
Let's imagine the pain he puts out when he hits someone in the flank or rear. Boom.
Most characters in Kings of War across the board, when attacking the front, are just not good points compared to taking a unit because you're taking them for support role. But Grokagamok is value, I think. Against almost all enemies, he's getting fairly reliably about 8 points of damage, which that's serious to anything. I think he's fantastic. He puts a lot of pain anywhere. He puts out a big threat range as well, so he's good for threatening. If you keep him a little bit behind your lines, he can protect back lines from fast flies and things.
Yep, I think you just need to make sure that he's not being charged initially. If he can get other things in front, then he can just, because of his smaller footprint,
Absolutely.
bang out and whack them in the face. Amputate their face. He's good. He can't give a magic item, so we won't talk about it. There's one thing that we're missing. The little fella hiding behind everyone because no one's taken him. The red goblin bigot. This is a hero, goblin hero. Infantry, 20 mil base. Speed 5. Melee 4, range 4, defense 4. 3 attacks, 9, 11 nerve. 60 points. Nice and cheap. He's got a bow. He's individual and he only inspires red goblin units. You can put him on a flea bag though. Give him in speed 10. That's an extra 15 points and change him to hero cav. Nah. Take an army standard. 3 attacks with a bow.
I think it's just funny that they called Goblin Leaders bigots. That's comedy gold already. The other thing is, it's not no one that's taking him. At the first MikeCon tourney we all went to, the other Ogre player was running 2 of these on wolves.
Yeah, I was just about to say they almost do the same thing as your Red Goblin Scouts, which is interesting. 60. What's the Fleabag worth? 15 points.
Yes.
75 points.
Versus 100 for the troop. Almost.
But you're also halving the attacks and...
He's not. I wouldn't be using him to fight. Just throw him in the road and that's the end of him.
He was good at projecting nerve checks to very odd places ogres can't usually get to, but not worth the points. I don't think.
I mean, Rage 4 is handy. I mean, it means that one of his 3 attacks should get in, but it's not piercing. Individual means you can't redirect because they can just steamroll over him and keep going. Nice small footprint, I guess, but
You got to be careful with him. If you're going to use him as chaff, you've got to be careful not to put your units too close, I guess. That's all I could see him useful
yeah.
for.
He's also fighting for those hero slots.
Yeah, that you've... Because ogres are so damn expensive, you're probably fighting for the unlocks you already
Yeah.
got. Yeah.
I mean, I could see the case of taking a couple of them on mounts, war machine hunting, or trying to do that one bit of wound on some average defense fellas, but hunters is all I could think of as war machine hunting because they'll get a couple of attacks and might actually rout them. Speed 10's good, but no. See ya. Alright, I think that is the list.
Thoughts on the army?
Well, I like them. Do you like them, Tim?
I love them, but they definitely have a few characteristics which set them aside because the army as a whole really moves at the same speed of 6.
Yeah.
That they don't have much variation.
No.
And that means that very fast, hard-hitting armies, like all-night armies, are scary, very scary. Because ogres, the second thing is they also don't have a lot of nerve. So
I was just having a look at this. I think it's fairly average because most hordes are 15, 17, and most of these guys are 15, 17. I think it might just be the hangover from fantasy, which have a lower leadership than most. But just doing the comparison, I think they're actually okay. It's what hurts them most is the speed and lack of ranged apart from shooters. I think that's the biggest thing is their speed. They're getting charged unless you can somehow get things in the way.
That's what I had when I was writing my list while we were talking about it, funnily enough. Trying to find something to just shove in the way was rather difficult.
Which brings us onto the subject of allies.
Yeah. Any thoughts on allies? Yeah,
Take
guess
things
what?
to get in the way.
Guess what? We can't say ogre shooters.
No, we've already got 4 of them.
enslaved guardians.
Yeah, that's it. With the +1 to hit item. I like either something that can fly or some more fast units like goblins or orcs
Yeah, I was going to say
or
goblins.
cavalry. Anything cheap that you can throw in the face of the other guys. Get them confused with the blood of your own little small fellas and then punch them when they're distracted.
Yeah, I was going to say Fleabag Riders or whatever they're called. Is that the goblin cavalry?
Yep.
Are they irregular? They're not irregular, are they?
Not.
I'm just trying to find out.
I'll just have a look. Anything with flies good because we don't have much that flies.
Yeah, cavalry. Fleabag Riders, now they're fine.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, something like that. Gargoyles would be good. Anything like that.
If you wanted chaff, I'd almost think ghouls from Undead because they're still speed 6. And they're low nerve enough they'll break after one round of combat, so have that counter charge lined up.
And troops of them. I suppose you've got to take a regiment of something to unlock the troops because the troops are only 65 points. But yeah, the regiment is 90 points, 12, 14 nerve with defense 3, so whatever hits them is going to kill them, unless you double 1. But the ogres have every army to ally with because of their neutral alignment.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't want to go through all the lists, but yeah, I think extra speed or chaff.
Yep. That's where I'd be pointing the fingers.
Yeah. They probably don't need war machines because they're getting into combat as fast as they can.
Yeah.
And it makes the war machines useless.
Not exactly slow. They're not slow, but they're... I know the speed is a big thing because you're not going to outreach cavalry.
Yeah, it's the being charged, so having to hit back is the problem. I can't think of anything else that I would want to take. I've run Orc on a winged slasher with some Gore Riders.
Yeah.
That's worked okay.
Yep.
Although the Orc is probably the poor version of the dude on Dragon because he's so expensive. It doesn't really do much.
Yeah. I'm just having a flick through. I'm not finding much. I just reckon something with a bit of speed would be ideal.
Undead?
Yeah, I was just looking at that. I thought about wraiths and then the troop. Then I looked at troops and you need something else to unlock them.
No, you take the regiments. I mean, wavering 16 defense 6 flying fellas is pretty good.
Yeah, but 200. What's a
200 points.
Yeah, 200 points out of an ogre army. That's a lot of points for one unit.
Yeah, but the wraiths also are crushing 1, like the rest of the ogre army.
True.
How about the werewolves?
Werewolves are a good choice
That's
too.
a good one.
Speed 9, 15, 17 nerve, 18 attacks, melee 3 with crushing 1. And these guys can sort of heal themselves with their life leech 1 and their nimble, so that's a really good fast unit. Not overly large footprint because it's standard like the rest of the other ogres, being large infantry. If you wanted to spend some money, you could go the pronunciation of these guys, Elohai.
Hello, hi.
Hello, hi. 300 points for those guys. You're only getting one of them.
I think you got a lot of options.
Yeah. All right. I think everyone gets the gist. How about we go through some lists?
Okay.
Have you written one up, Spoon?
Yeah, I've written one up.
Then
Well, it's probably
throw
not
it
very
at
good.
us.
Alright, bear in mind I am 5 points over because I've been writing this as we've been going. So I am 2,005
no.
points. I could drop an item, but I'm not
Oh.
going to.
All right, go on.
So I have a horde of warriors. Was umming and ahhing as to whether to exchange the shields. It depends on the item I put on the army standard bearer. So if I took healing charm,
Mm-hmm.
I'd drop to the two-handed weapons. If not, which I didn't, I went diadem on the...
Okay.
Oh no, I took it off. Oh,
Where are
ignore
you?
that. Oh, I thought I had it on there. Alright,
All right,
so
go on.
no exchange for the two-handed weapons, and I've got 2 regiments of Berserker Braves.
Mm-hmm.
Then I've got a horde of Siege Breakers, Brew of Haste, Boomers. This is where I screwed it up. 'Cause I left the
Okay.
Heart-Seeking Chant on the Boomers, which should be the diadem on the Army Standard Bearer, which I'll
Now
get
you're just
to.
confusing me.
Right, I'll start again. Horde of Warriors,
Yeah.
stock standard, no
Yeah.
items. Two regiments of Berserker Braves.
Yeah.
Siege Breakers, Brew of Haste.
Yeah.
Horde. A horde of Boomers.
Right.
2 Red Goblin Scout Troops.
Okay.
So that's my chaff. Army
Mhm.
Standard Bearer, meant to have the diadem of Dragonkind. I think I took it off the wrong unit, but anyway. Warlock, and I upgraded to Fireball 12. I've got the Living Legend, and 2 Blasters, and 1 Beefy Giant.
Sounds fairly solid. Got a decent core there. Warriors, Siege Breakers, a couple of, I'm assuming, flanking Berserkers, and some dudes to get in the way.
Mhm.
Giants are handy, blasters are handy.
Yep.
Covered all your bases there.
Yeah. Tried.
Nice and
tried to.
balanced.
Yep.
The only thing you're missing maybe is some decent long-ranged.
Yeah, well, it's shooters, or what's the other one? Red Goblins, is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Just little dudes with bows.
I couldn't decide between the Red Goblin Scouts and the normal Red Goblins, so I went with the Cav just because they were a bit quicker.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Right.
How about you, Tim? You said you've got a amazing army, the best list in the world,
The best list in Kings of War.
or is it just a tribute?
You've got to believe me. I wish you were there, but here it is. Okay, so most ogres are pretty low on the drops, and this list addresses that. So we start off with 10 warrior regiments, and they can be
Okay.
mixed. Yep. You know we're going bold already. So you
Yeah.
mix that with crushing strength to the 200 weapons as much as you like. You choose that balance as you need, but I'd probably go 50-50 with the two-handed and the one-handed,
Yep.
like the shields.
Yep.
One of those gets the Crystal Pendant of Retribution.
Uh-huh.
Even if you tell your opponent at the start which one it is, they're not going to remember, and so it's always going to be a surprise for them.
This is a troll build. Without trolls. Go on. Very clever.
Okay, and then you take 10 Red Goblin Blasters. And that makes it the Michael Bay extravaganza. It's flawless.
Oh, what if someone shoots one of them blasters?
That's like a Michael
Then
Bay.
you will have a lot of fun. Like, you have this in a careful pattern. They're all very carefully spaced.
They're all 6 and 1 inch away from each other.
6 and 1 inch. 7 inches.
6.1.
6.1.
Oh, I thought you said 6 and 1 inches, not 0.1.
Okay, so depending on what's going on, if they've got a lot of fast stuff, you keep some on your back, you keep some on the front, some on the sides of your warriors, and it's like having explosive armor around this core of warriors you have. It's amazing, it's flawless, it'll win you every game, 10 out of 10.
How many times have you tried this list?
0, but in theory,
That's the
it's
point.
amazing.
Oh, yeah, that is amazing.
Michael,
Oh, dearie me.
Michael
So
Bay will be recording at the table when
he
you
will.
run that.
weak at the knees.
Look, I'm not. This is coming to cinemas 2017. This list, you wait. And it'll probably be against your list as well. You'll see it being blown to bits in IMAX widescreen 3D.
Oh, so good. All right.
We'll have to put an advert up on YouTube for it.
Yeah.
We'll call it Spoon's PTSD, Part 1.
Number 2 will be the flashback.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know if I can beat that, but I'll read out mine. This is one that I'm toying with for Convic. So no flying units. Well, you can have a max of 3, but I didn't take any. So there. I'm starting off with some red goblins. Just a regiment. They got bows. They're going to shoot things and take objectives because that's what they do. I've then got a horde of warriors. Nothing special about them other than being warriors. And then I have a horde of Berserker Braves. I've given these guys a brew of haste, so they're nice and fast and scratching at your face quickly. Backed up by some siege breakers. A horde of those guys. Don't need anything on them. And sitting behind both the warriors and the breakers, I've got boomers. 2 hordes of them. One with Blessing of the Gods, one with Chant of Hate. So they're both re-rolling 1s at some point, and both hopefully doing a lot of damage to anything that tries to eat me face. That it also takes care of flyers. Turn and shoot, see ya fellas. I've got to inspire these guys though, so I've got 2 army standards. One with the healing charm to charm healing, and one with the scrying gem of Zelak, because making people put drops down is fun.
I can never find points for that thing. But anyway,
I
keep
did.
going.
It's great. Like you, I've got 2 red goblin blasters, because they're always in the lists. And I've got 2 giants.
No, I did have 2 giants.
Army of 2s, 2 boomers, 2 standards, 2 blasters, 2 giants. And a whole bunch of warriors and hitty fellas at the front. So I think that's fairly, I guess, balanced. I don't have a lot of long-ranged boomers. Is as long as I'm going to get.
2 units of boomers is nasty.
It is.
Yeah.
With a couple of blasters. I've got a lot of threat here, so what do you take care of? Blasters, giants, boomers, siege breakers? I don't know.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I don't know how I'll get through 10 regiments and 10 blasters. Especially since I can't reach the blasters.
I want to see that played.
Yeah, that'd be great. You be it. But yeah, there we go. I guess 3 very different lists.
I like yours because, first of all, it's not stupid like mine. I like it's got 12 drops. Like Ogres, because you do like hordes so much in the list, it's easy to go too low with drops.
Yeah.
And you've got Scrying Gem as well to help.
That try and makes up for it a little bit.
I like the boomers to fix problems with flyers and other sundry things that get around strange places.
Because without them, we don't have much.
Have you tested that list much?
No, I'd like to give this one a go on a Wednesday. So this is ready to go. I've got my second giant today, so just got to test it out and see how it goes.
Cool.
I did try another 2,000 point list, which is very similar. I've just added, because I had 500 points worth of orcs in that one, just taken them out and thrown in some extra things. So yeah, I'm sure it'll be okay, but we'll have to see. But I think that brings us to the end of this wonderful Ogre army wrap-up.
Aww.
Yeah, sorry. Do we have any final word about the army?
Nah, I think we've gone over everything.
Yeah, don't take shooters. They're the worst thing ever. Find something else. You lazy people. No, you're not lazy. You're wonderful. Alright, thanks for joining our show, Fishbat.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me. Yeah,
And
worries.
good having your nice, deep, dulcet tones
Aw.
in our ears.
Oh, you.
And we'll need to line up a battle report.
Yes.
Absolutely we will.
Everyone check out the YouTube channel.
Yes.
Watch the reports, they're really
We'll
good.
put notes in show notes. Remember that.
Yep.
Subscribe.
Indeed. Okay, that'll be us. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Show's Ogre, folks.
Oh, that's a good one.
See ya.
Bye.
Yeah, direct misfire blowing up the game. Talking many war games is our aim. From rule books to advice, we cover it all. With the best tactics, we never fall. Bensome and Spoon are your hosts every vid. Misfiring, but aiming up ahead. Comment, like, and subscribe today. Keeping you notified and up to date. Come check us out at facebook.com/directmisfire or shoot us over an email at directmisfire@gmail.com.